What's going on, guys? Lilith here, and I hope you're all having an awesome day. If you know me, it's probably for my spicy blight gameplay and streams over on Twitch. As a blight main, I thought it was important to address the current Jflick situation, my thoughts on it, and provide a personal message to both the community and the devs of Dead by Daylight to explain my thoughts and feelings on the flick as a function in the game. Firstly, I'd like to say that blight is fun. Like, really fun. I've genuinely never had such a good time playing a game as I have done in the past few months playing this character. I think behavior has created something entirely unique that feels amazing to play and to play against, unlike many of the other strong killers in the game. The blight is an extremely effective killer, but one that feels rewarding to continue to improve with. Unlike other characters, the blight directly works around the same tiles and movement spaces as survivors, and it takes a lot of practice to master the intricacies of the counterplay, but when you nail it down, it feels amazing. So, onto the Jflick. For those unaware, the Jflick is basically a technique that allows the blight to curve around very tight loops and corners and lunge to hit survivors on the other side. This is an extremely difficult skill to learn and takes a lot of practice to master. It's not nearly as easy as just running a high DPI and flicking your mouse. You need precision accuracy to hit the right turns, and even then, the hits are never guaranteed. There are no external modifications to the game, no fancy hacks or software going on to pull these off, just quick mouse movement. Let me explain why I feel like the devs unintentionally created a perfect gameplay mechanic without even realizing it. And yes, although the flick was originally unintended by the devs, that doesn't mean that it isn't a healthy addition to the game. Examples of unintended features can be found everywhere from Super Mario to fighting games like Street Fighter, where bugs are kept in the game due to either the amount of skill required to pull off the moves or the unique function of the bug. Even camera 360s and instant flashlight turns in DBD would be considered unintended, but have stayed in the game despite giving the survivors a tactical advantage. The reason I feel like the Jflick functions so well is that it's a counter to object hugging, a popular way of looping as a survivor. Typically, the survivor wants to hug an object as tightly as possible to allow the killer to gain the smallest amount of distance in a chase. All a blight flick does is also hug an object with a lunge, which will catch survivors that aren't paying attention. Despite what you may have heard, Jflicks are unbelievably easy to dodge and actually hinder the blight if you miss them, allowing the survivor a ton of time to punish the blight for missing and easily make it to a safe area to continue the chase. Flicks can't be used around most tiles and loops, and when they can, they're easily identifiable from a survivor perspective if they're paying attention to the blight's movement. Take this clip as an example. Right as I approach the end of the car, you can see I physically turn all of the way around, which gives the survivor a solid indicator that I'm going for a flick. You can see one coming from a mile away, which gives the survivor more than enough time to move out of the way. So let's talk about counterplay. As you can see by this footage, all you need to do to dodge a flick is to simply move a step back. Because of the instant turn the blight does when starting a flick, they're incredibly easy to see coming, and it gives survivors the time to move out of the way. Again, the blight will only hit the survivor if they continue looping around the object without looking where they're going. You can move to the left, right, hold W behind the tile, move behind the blight, or many other options. The only time you'll actually get hit by the flick is if you continue running around the loop without paying attention to the killer's movement. In fact, in most situations, you don't even have to step back to avoid a flick. Just standing in place will often cause the blight to get stuck, and since he is still aiming forward in a lunge, the hit will never connect with the survivor. Most of the time, going for a well-planned rush with good bump logic will result in a much more difficult hit for the survivor to dodge. If blight does decide to go for a flick, they'll give the survivor so much extra chase time if they miss. We could chase the survivor up the stairs and assume they will turn the corner. This hit is going to be incredibly easy to dodge and give the survivor enough time to head back downstairs and easily out of the window before I can catch them. However, in the second instance, we instead focus on a well-placed slam at the top, giving the survivor much less room to move and securing the hit. This creates a healthy balance between skill, accuracy, as well as real tangible counterplay for the survivor, plus it feels amazing to dodge a flick. Let me give you a direct example of where a Jflick can be used and why it's a healthy mechanic that will punish the blight for trying to go for a hit that doesn't land. Take this LT wall for example, a classic tile that most survivors know how to loop. When a blight approaches the outside of the tile, they'll have the option of flicking inside of it and hitting the survivor that is going for the window vault. However, if the survivor makes the decision to go anywhere other than run straight towards the window, the blight will miss heavily and lose distance in the chase whilst in fatigue to allow the survivor to continue looping the LT wall safely, or even make it to an adjacent tile to extend the chase even more. Like mentioned before, because of the fact blight turns are so immediate whilst flicking, it easily gives the survivor enough time to notice what the blight is doing, and gives them enough time to move out of the way. They can move to the right, they can move behind the blight, they can ultimately hold W or even head to the other window vault and never be remotely close to getting hit. Any option other than committing to the window vault in the first place will punish the blight for making an incorrect move, and like I've mentioned before, lead to healthy back and forth counterplay by both the killer and the survivor. Other killers are definitely worth mentioning here as a direct comparison. The Spirit ultimately defies all counterplay, and is generally not considered most survivors' favourite killer to go against. The Oni also has a flick, but the difference here is that the Oni instantly slams his weapon down and doesn't give the survivor any opportunity to dodge it, and instead relies on the killer making the right turn to either collide or not. The blight does not randomly appear like the Spirit, and does not instantly flick to a survivor's hitbox like the Oni does. Even the Huntress will get the survivors into a 50-50 situation every time they approach a pallet, where if the survivor decides to greed the pallet, they'll get hit with a basic attack, or if they pull the pallet down, the Huntress will pull up a hatchet and hit you during the pallet drop animation. Instead, the blight travels around an object just like the survivor does and will telegraph his flick at least half a second ahead of time, allowing them to dodge or move out of the way of the hit. To me, this is incredibly legitimate and healthy counterplay that is fun and skillful for players on both sides. I think it would be extremely disappointing to find out that the devs had removed the feature purely on the basis that it wasn't originally intended, despite having created one of the most fun characters to ever grace the video game world. Most survivors that go against me in a trial always mention about how fun the chases were, and the amount of people that tell me on a daily basis about how much fun they have playing Blight is astounding. He's a work of art, a perfectly crafted character, and one that I truly love playing. I really hope this video sparks discussion and shines a light on Blight that doesn't seem to be available elsewhere, and I hope the devs at least take these points into consideration when they look into modifying the character in the future. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and it really helps the channel out. We stream live on Twitch 4 days a week, and it'd be awesome to have you come and hang out with us. We also have a Discord server that you're more than welcome to join and get involved with the most wholesome DBD community out there. Have an amazing day, guys. I love you all, and I'll speak to you very soon.